In part 1, I showed you how to install Ollama in a Docker container on your Hostinger virtual private server. I also showed you how to create a shared network so all of your Docker containers could talk to each other on the VPS. Well, my name is Mike Murphy, and in this part 2 tutorial, I'm going to show you how to connect n8n to the shared network so n8n and Ollama can talk to each other. I will then show you how you can use Ollama that you have installed on your Hostinger VPS in your n8n AI automation workflows for free. In this part 2, first we're going to check and confirm which Docker containers are connected to the shared Docker network called AppNet. Then we are going to connect n8n to the shared Docker network, so then n8n and Ollama can talk to each other. Once we confirm that Ollama and n8n are on the same AppNet network, well then we are going to build an n8n automation workflow using Ollama and our free AI models. Sign in to your Hostinger VPS dashboard. In the top right corner, click on Terminal. The first thing we'll do is check and see which Docker containers on the VPS are connected to the AppNet network. So for that, we're just going to type in this little snippet of code right here. Docker space network space inspect. We'll type in the name of the network, app-net, and then tap return. On the top line that is returned, you will see the name of the Docker network that you're currently inspecting. So in our case, when we added the snippet, we said that we wanted to inspect the Docker network called AppNet, and that is exactly what we're seeing. And to see the names of every Docker container that you have on your VPS that is currently connected to the Docker network that you are inspecting. So in my case, I am inspecting the AppNet Docker network. Go down to the section called Containers and just look for name. So in my case, the only name or the only Docker container that is currently connected to AppNet Docker network is Ollama. So let's fix that by adding n8n. So when we run this again, we should see Ollama and n8n listed under containers. Changing directory is only for you if you moved n8n out of the default root directory that was set up when you created your Hostinger VPS account. Now, if you moved n8n into its own directory like I did here, you probably know that you did that. But if you just want to confirm, sign into your Hostinger dashboard, go to VPS, click on Docker Manager. If you are seeing root, there's nothing you need to do at this step. You don't have to change directory because you will always be in the root directory when you launch the terminal from your dashboard. But when you just see the tilde there, that indicates that you are in your root directory. And if you just want to double check, you can type pwd for print working directory to always confirm where you are in the terminal. You can use this pwd, tap return, and that confirms that we are currently in the root directory. Now, since I moved my n8n into its own directory called n8n, well, I need to cd first, or change directory. So cd space tilde, that means that I want to go into the root directory, then I want to go into a subfolder in the root directory called n8n. I'll tap return. Now if I do pwd now to print working directory, you will see I am in the n8n folder that is nested inside of the root directory. In part 1, we created a brand new docker-compose.yml or YAML file to define the Docker setup for Ollama. Since there wasn't an existing Docker Compose file, we had to create a new one, and we used the text editor that is built into terminal called Nano. Well, n8n already has an existing docker-compose.yml file, so all we're going to do in this part 2 is to edit and make sure that we add the AppNet network. So I'm going to type Nano, that's going to bring up the Nano text editor, space, docker-compose.yml. I'll tap return. To move your cursor around the Nano editor, you use the arrow keys on your keyboard. So up and down, left and right. First, we're just going to add these 2 lines, and we're going to do so after the last label and before you get to the volumes at the bottom. I'll just click in the window of the Nano editor and use my arrow keys to navigate the cursor. You'll see your cursor is that white block. I'm just going to tap the down arrow because we're going to go down. And if you're wondering, why is there so much stuff in this? And there wasn't all that much in the YAML file we created in part 1 for Ollama. Well, this is the default setup by Hostinger, and this top section here is for traffic. So this is a little more complicated. It has to do with reverse proxy, but we're scrolling down until we get to the n8n services section. So just keep using your down arrow keys. We're going down, we're going down. We're going to go below the labels, and we're going to go just above where volume is. So after the last label, before you see volume down below. I'll use the left arrow key, so we're at the end, and we'll tap return to make a little space. So my cursor is in the right spot in the YAML file. All I'm going to do is add a new header called networks. So it's going to end with a colon, and below that, I'll type a dash and then app-net, the name of our Docker network. Okay, so I'm going to click in Nano. I'll tap the spacebar just to indent a little bit. I'll call it networks, dash app.net. Okay, so I'll tap the return key. I'm going to indent a little bit. And that dash is the yellow dashes that you're seeing there. I'll type dash space app dash net. And now we're going to scroll to the very bottom. So below this volume section, and we're going to add these 3 lines. So use the down arrow to move the cursor down. So we're at the very bottom. I'll tap return one more time just to make a little space. So we're typing networks, no dash before appnet in this case, but we're going to indent it. We'll indent one more time and put external true. Networks, return. Spacebar once. App dash net return 2 spaces. 1, 2. External space true. Just double check to make sure I have everything right. Perfect. And now we do the 3-step process to write out or to save the file in Nano so we can return back to the terminal. So to save or to write out in Nano, first you press the Control key and the letter O. So not the number 0, the letter O is write out, which you can see at the bottom. After we write out, we tap the Return or Enter key, and then you press Control X to exit Nano and return to the terminal. Okay, are we ready? Control plus O. So I've got the Control key pressed. I'm going to tap the letter O. And now we just need to commit the change. So down here it's saying it's going to write to the docker-compose.yml. We can see the asterisk right here that's indicating that this file still needs to be saved. So after we do this, we should write out or save the file and the asterisk should go away. So I'm going to tap the return key on my keyboard. You can see it wrote 76 lines. So there was a lot more in this YAML file than the part 1. But now you can see we just saved the file or wrote it out as it is in Nano. The asterisk is gone. And now we just need to exit the Nano editor by pressing the Control key and the letter X. Control X. And now we're back in terminal, and I am in the n8n directory, and you just may be in the root. So you probably just see the tilde. Now we need to restart n8n in order for the changes that we just made in the docker-compose YAML file to take effect. So first, we're going to stop the n8n Docker container. All we're going to do is type in docker space compose space down, tap return. It stopped, and it actually removed the Docker container, but not to worry because we have all of our n8n data in a separate Docker volume. And if you really want to scare yourself after you stop and remove the Docker container, go back to your Docker manager and your root folder or your n8n Docker container is gone until we do the next step, which is to bring it back up. Now to bring back the n8n container with the new network settings that we edited in the docker-compose.yml file, we're going to enter this little snippet of code to restart and recreate the n8n Docker container. Docker space compose space up space dash D. And dash D just starts it in detached mode or in the background. I'll tap return. Looking good. That's what we want to see. And if you got a little nervous when you stopped and removed your n8n Docker container, well, if you go back to the Docker Manager and just refresh your browser window, the n8n Docker container is back for me. You might be seeing root, and I can confirm right here that the Docker container is running. And check this out. Under n8n, if I go over to Manage, I can click on YAML Editor. This is the docker-compose.yml file that we edited in Nano in the terminal. And if I scroll down below, right below the labels, remember, we added networks. So there's what we just added. I'll scroll to the very bottom. Remember, we added networks, app.net, external true. I'm seeing a little squiggly. So let's just see what that is. Inconsistent indentation. So I didn't use enough indents when I was using the spacebar. So it says it uses 2 spaces per indent. So let's just add another space. Squiggly went away. I'll add another space down here. Looks like we still need to add one more. Okay, now to write out or to save the changes that we made to the YAML file when you're in your dashboard, we're going to go to the top and we're going to click on deploy. So I'll click that. It's basically shutting everything down and bringing it back up. Now it's back up and running. If I go back to Manage, go to the YAML editor, I'll scroll to the bottom, and all of our changes have been updated, and we fixed the little syntax error. Nice. Go back into your VPS terminal. So if you've already closed it, you can just click on terminal from your dashboard. And now the moment of truth. We are going to check and confirm that n8n is now connected to the app.net network, so it can now talk to Ollama, and we'll be able to use it in n8n. And just as an FYI, you can check the network from any directory, so you don't have to be in the n8n or you don't have to be in the root directory. So a little side tip. If you ever want to get back to the root directory, or if you're on your Mac, if you ever want to get back to your home folder, if you just type cd for change directory and put nothing else after it, tap return, that is going to always get back to either your root or your home folder. I'll type clear just to keep things neat. And now I'm just going to copy this little snippet, paste it in, Command V. I just used the right arrow to get to the end. Tap return. I can already see that we are in business, but let's just go through this one more time. But at the top, we said that we wanted to inspect the Docker network called app.net. And we can confirm here under name that we are indeed inspecting the app.net network. And then to see which Docker containers are currently connected to app.net, we're going to containers and we're looking for name. And now instead of just seeing Ollama, we are also seeing n8n. Now mine is called n8n-n8n-1, and yours might be 2, as that is the default setup by Hostinger. Congratulations, n8n is now connected, and now we're just going to go to the last step to verify that n8n is up and running, which we already checked in the Docker Manager. But by using this little command here, you can also see the name of your n8n if you just want to confirm what yours is called. So I'll type in docker space ps, tap return. There I can see the n8n-n8n-1, and this is the name of my Ollama container. And one thing I do want to point out, under ports, you will see there is that 11434 that we're going to use in n8n. And for n8n, you can see the port that it uses by default is 5678. Enough already. Let's test this thing out on n8n and see if we can use Ollama in our n8n workflows so we have AI models anytime we want it for free. Launch n8n however you get to it. Click on Manage App, or if you use HTTPS, go ahead and put that in a browser. I click the plus selected workflow, so now I have a new blank workflow. I'll click plus to add the first step. I'm going to do a search for manual. I'm going to click to add a manual trigger. I'm going to click plus to add a second node. I'm going to add the edit field set. So I can just do a search for set. There we see edit fields. This is going to allow me to copy and paste text so I can use the Ollama models to summarize the text. I found this article online about what is Ollama. It's about 1,600 words. I just copied the text and we're going to use it as a test to see how our Ollama models do. We're in the edit fields node. I'll click to add a field. For the name, I'm going to call this content. So any content that I want to summarize. I'll keep the text at string. And for the value, I'm just going to paste in the article's text. So I have it copied on my clipboard. I'll just do Command V. I'll go back to the canvas. Now the moment we have been waiting for, we're going to add the Ollama model. I'll click plus. I'm going to do search for Ollama. And we are going to be using the Ollama Chat Model. I'll click. Now we need to set a credential. I'll click Create New Credential. When you add new Docker containers on your VPS, the Docker containers are automatically assigned a port number. So remember we talked about Ollama's port was 11434 and n8n is 5678. And each Docker container has their own internal URL where they can be reached on the VPS. You can think of the internal URL as the phone number for the Docker container. So if n8n wants to talk to Ollama, n8n is just going to call up their internal URL. Before n8n joined the AppNet network, if n8n tried to call Ollama, it would not be able to get through. But now that n8n and Ollama are both on the app network, n8n can call Ollama, and if Ollama wants to call n8n on its birthday, well, Ollama is just going to enter in the internal URL for n8n's container. And the last thing I'll point out is that even though we have port 11434 blocked from the outside world, and the same with n8n's 5678, they can still talk to each other by using the internal URL. And the reason that we went over the internal URLs when we go back into n8n to set up the credentials for Ollama, well, we need to enter in the correct URL or the phone number for Ollama. By default, it's set to localhost, and that is saying for n8n to check inside of its own container. But we want n8n to check in the AppNet network. So we're going to give it the correct address or the URL for Ollama in our AppNet network, which is http://Ollama. So all you really have to do is just replace the localhost with Ollama. 11434 is the port assigned to Ollama. And now when we click save, we should have a connection. Bingo. If n8n and Ollama were not on the same shared Docker network, AppNet in our case, you would not be able to connect successfully. Or if you had used the local host, you would have gotten an error message. So since Ollama and n8n can talk to each other on the shared Docker network, and since we used the correct phone number or the correct URL for Ollama, we were able to connect successfully. So now we can use Ollama in our n8n automation workflows. Cool. I'm going to close this out. And now we've got our credential set. We can choose the model. And any model that we pulled in from the Ollama model library is going to show up in this list. How cool is that? So let's try the Llama 3.2 latest model first. This is the bigger one. I'll go back to the canvas. Okay, I have a couple of things left to make this work. And I'm just going to pull down the Ollama Chat Model just to kind of tidy things up. And I'm also going to connect the edit fields to the basic LLM chain. I'm going to click on the basic LLM chain. I'm going to change the source here. I'm going to define it below. And I'm going to enter a prompt. And the prompt is saying, summarize this content in 3 to 5 clear bullet points. So whatever I give it in the edit field section, I want it to summarize. And this section here is saying, look in the edit fields or the previous node. I'll go back to the canvas. And now I'm just going to execute the workflow. So sending it. Our Ollama Chat model in the basic LLM chain is working if you are on the fence about installing Ollama on your VPS. Well, if you are using a premium API key, meaning one that you have to pay for, maybe one by OpenAI or Anthropic, they're going to be faster. But every time you execute a workflow, just like we're doing now, you are paying. Those are hitting against your API credits. So it doesn't matter whether you're testing out your workflows, building the workflows, every time you execute with those premium API keys as your AI assistant or as your AI node, you are going to be paying for those. The only thing you are paying for when you use Ollama and the self-hosted version of n8n is your Hostinger VPS plan. You're witnessing in real time. It is taking some time to generate the response. There's no question. The VPS is working really hard to run the LLM, but it is working. Now, it took 2 minutes and 40 seconds to go through that 1,600-word article, but it looks like it did a great job summarizing. Do not give up on a model just because it runs slow the first time you load it. Try it again and see if the time improves. This is the same Llama 3.2 latest, the biggest model that we installed, and check this out. The second time, it only took 27 seconds. That's a lot better than the 2 minutes and 40 seconds it took on its first try. And remember, any model that you want to pull in from the Ollama model library is going to be available. So if you're not happy with the performance of one model, or maybe it's not giving you the results that you want, we'll just swap out the model. So I'll double click on the Ollama Chat model. I'll select the smaller one, the Qwen 2.5. This is the smallest model that we installed. Click Execute Workflow. It's running the same workflow. It's running that same 1,600-word article. And let's just see how it does. Remember, we're not going to give up on it on its first try. First try, 15 seconds. Not bad. Let's run it again. Second time, 12 seconds. Nice. And what if you just wanted the Ollama models to work like a chat assistant, just like you could enter a text prompt with ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini? Well, I'll go into the basic LLM chain. I'm going to change it from defined below to connected chat trigger node. I'll go back. I've got this when chat received. So now I can use the chat window in n8n and just test it out. So what was the original name of the Grateful Dead? Now, I have no idea if it's going to answer this question correctly or what it's going to do, but I'm executing it. It is working. It took 2 seconds to tell me the Grateful Dead's original name was the Warlocks. Correct. They changed their name to the Grateful Dead in 1965. I'm going to close out this tutorial by showing you just how easy and fast it is to pull in new models. So if you just want to try out a new model in your n8n workflow, or maybe you're not liking a model and you want to remove it from your VPS, here's how to do it. Somebody tells you to try out the Gemma 2 2B. So you go to Ollama, you go to the models page, you do a search, you find it. We're looking for the name of the model. That's the important thing right here, Gemma 2:2B. So you go into your Hostinger VPS terminal, you find the command to pull the models. You can use either one of these. This first one is the clean one. So this is not going to be interactive. It's just going to pull in the model to our VPS. I'll copy it. I'm going to paste it. Tap return. It's pulling in the Gemma 2:2B model. Could not be any easier. Success. The model is installed in a Docker volume on your VPS separate from the Ollama application. We jump back to n8n. I had done nothing. I'm just going to click on the Ollama Chat model. Go to the models. How about that? The Gemma 2:2B is loaded without even refreshing anything. I'll click. Go back. Execute. Let it do it. It took 1 minute and 50 seconds the first time. I'm going to run it again and see if it improves. How about that? 22 seconds the second time. To see what is installed on your VPS at any time, you can run a little command here. It's going to list all of the models. And if you ever want to remove a model, paste it in, instantly deleted, go back to n8n, go into the model, that Quen model is now gone. There is a link in the description that will take you to a GitHub repo that has all of the snippets of code that I used in part 1 and part 2. And that is how to install Ollama on your Hostinger VPS to give you access to a ton of free, local, and private LLMs that you can then use in your n8n AI automation workflows for free. My name is Mike Murphy, your AI handyman. Cheers.